back, and thank you again for joining us for this edition of the 2014 Campaign Roundtable Series. I'm politics reporter Robert-rizzuto, and we are here with the Democratic candidates running to be the next state treasurer of Massachusetts. Again, thank you all for joining us. We are going to go for our next set of questions over to our panel of expert journalists. The first one comes from Karen Brown of New England Public Radio. Karen?
Thank you. In your opinion, was the state's probation hiring scandal indicative of patronage corruption in other state agencies? And regardless, how will you approach the issue of staffing the office to ensure there isn't even the appearance of patronage?
Okay, so we are, reflecting back on the trial as just concluded, regarding the hiring practices in the state probation department. We'd like to know, what your take is on this and how you plan to approach staffing the office of treasurer if elected. And for this one, Tom, we can start with you right in the middle.
Sure. This probation issue has been unfortunate, and it's not something that I welcome. I have been part of the House of Representatives, and while I'm part of that institution, I've never been part of the culture, something that I've always sort of kept separate. And I ran for office, Rob, first and foremost, to enhance the public's trust in government. There's a lack of trust right now. It's on a downward trend, which is troubling to me. I want to lead by example. I want to be guided by principles that I think people really want and expect from the next treasurer. Principles that have guided me over the course of my entire professional career: transparency, accountability, loyalty and diligence around the decisions that need to be made at the State House and specific to Massachusetts taxpayers. And it's that kind of trust building that I've been able to accomplish over the course of the past 8 years. Over 50 colleagues are supporting me because they do place their trust in me. And I think more and more voters are doing that too. So I, again, want to lead by example and enhance the public's trust. That's what it's all about to me.
Gotcha. And just in regards to, the problems that were uncovered at the probation department, do you think that's something, is that the exception or the rule when it comes to?
So yeah, second part of the question was, how am I going to hire? I'm going to hire based on qualifications, and I'm a big believer in merit, right? Do you have the experience and the expertise required to do the job? I'm certainly going to have an office that is diverse in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity. We're going to have an office that embraces communities of color, and I think that makes organizations stronger. I've worked in a lot of different organizations, nonprofits, private sector, public sector. The more diversity of perspective, opinion, and culture we have in those organizations, the stronger you can be.
So Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barry, we'll come to you next on this, reflecting on the probation trial.
I was proud, and I helped lead on ethics reform, and I think that was a necessary step. And I think as a result of that, there's tougher scrutiny on who we hire, who we recommend, and I think that's a great thing. The thing that I'm really proud of what Steve Grossman has done is he's put the state checkbook and online, and basically people can see what the state is spending and what they're making their decisions. What I'm going to do in my office is I'm going to make public, if anybody wants to see who I hire, why I hired them, that will be public information as well. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud that, as a state senator, as a state rep, I believe I've hired the best possible people who can do a good job for the people I represent. And as the next state treasurer, I plan to do the same thing, hiring the best people I can to do the best job for the taxpayers and the people of this Commonwealth.
Barry, thank you. Deb.
Well, I come to this with a little bit different perspective, having come from the local level, where all of our hiring is done in public hearings. Everything is televised. Everything is open. It's a very democratic process. 5 members of the Board of Selectmen, 250 town meeting members. People attend each other's meetings, and the process is always inclusive. That, from the private sector, I learned a lot about human resources and how you evaluate people. I even am the president of an adoption agency, and even though we're a very small organization, the way in which I evaluate the 2 executive directors with weighted weights on what their goals are for the year, how they met their goals, what their professionalization qualifications are, and how they move forward and how we keep on improving is what I bring to the treasurer's office. In terms of transparency, I think the checkbook online has been great, but if you start to try to dig to find out specifics about there are more than 8 or 9 departments within the treasurer's office, and you start to look at the budgets and how monies are allocated, you can go on the MassGov website. I tried doing it in my free time at 1 in the morning and trying to find information, and you can't. It's very hard to access. I think this is important because this is how taxpayer dollars are being spent. So I come from a background in a community that has a high level of scrutiny, and that's what I bring to the Treasurer's office. I think it's a shame what's gone on, and I think that people deserve more than what they get. And it impacts voters. It impacts people out there. That's why they're not engaged. So we need to have leaders who really make a difference, and I'm committed to that.
Gotcha. All right, 3 candidates pledging increased transparency. We appreciate that. And we are going to kick the next question back over to our panel of journalists. This one comes from Ron Chamelis. Ron?
Thank you. One of the state treasurer's responsibilities involves overseeing the state employee retirement plans. If you're elected, each of you, what investment strategy do you envision and which would you implement, not just to ensure that these programs remain solvent, but that they grow?
All right, so yes, another very important function of the job is managing the pension funds for the state employees. So I'm sure you've all taken a look at this and have ideas. So why don't we start with Deb on this one?
Well, I'm really excited about the pension fund because having worked on the local level on a contributory retirement fund and looking at ways of more fully funding it, we were actually able to reduce the number of years till we were fully funded by greater than anticipated revenues, and then doing actuarial studies and being able to reduce the rate of return, shorten the term, and then have a sustainable growth. At the state level, I feel very honored that Mass Retirees has placed their confidence in me because it is their pension fund, that they believe that the strategies that I can bring to the table are what will work. Now, under Steve Grossman this past year, Massachusetts was number 2 in the country, 17.2% returns. That is much more than anticipated returns. And so the strategy that I sat down and looked at his allocation strategy for today, that is the best strategy for growth with not too much risk. We will need to work with PRIM because that is the Treasurer's responsibility, to work with PRIM and that board, those are the safeguards in place, to continuously challenge our investment managers and investment advisors to reach for those kind of returns. And that is how we will proceed and be able to decrease the number of years. Standard & Poor's and Moody's are not concerned about our liability. We are AA, yes, that is correct, not about our pension liability. That's why we are AA1 and AA+. What they're concerned about, and it's something the treasurer needs to be talking to them about, is some states throw off their debt onto county systems, and Massachusetts doesn't have that option. AA1 and AA+ is good. I'd like to reach for AAA. And the way in which we can do that is work with the rating agencies, be transparent about how we manage debt, make sure that we are consistently flipping debt in order to get a better deal for the taxpayers. But that is how I view the pension fund and how we move forward.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And Tom, on this one?
Well, I'm not sure how Deb was helping address the Brookline pension fund by reducing the return on investment, which is what she said.
I didn't say that. I said reducing the rate of return over time. Rate of return. I said rate of return.
Reducing the rate of return of investments, it doesn't sort of make sense.
After
anyway,
you do
what I've done
actuarial.
as a state representative is I got called in by the governor's people back in 2007 as a freshman. And they recognized in me the financial expertise and the money management experience that they needed to address the 105 pension systems that are out there all throughout the Commonwealth. And how can we help the ones that are underperforming perform better and become more solvent so that people can retire in dignity at the state and the local level. And I was part of that effort back then in 2007 and 8 to make some changes, make some reforms, and we have a lot more pension systems today that are solvent than were back then, because we've improved the performance under the law that I helped write. So I've taken real steps on this, real achievements, real results. I've been focused on this issue for quite some time. If I'm fortunate enough to become treasurer, I'm going to create an investment strategy document that outlines our principles of investing. So are we going to make investments in companies that are not supporting our values? I don't think so. I want to talk about investing in companies that are going to help grow the Massachusetts economy, grow that pension fund, get us the best possible return on investment, reduce the amount of risk that we are facing, reduce the amount of fees that we're paying to manage that money wisely and prudently, and I'm going to work with the board to do that. I've got the real finance expertise in this race. With all due respect to my colleagues, both of whom are lawyers, I've been working in this industry for 10 years previously, and I've had clients that are investment managers, banks, insurance companies, mutual fund companies. I know the good ones and I know the bad ones, and we're going to be able to succeed and make sure these pensions are solvent far into the future.
Tom, thank you. Barry, investment strategy, we're looking at the state's pension funds.
I think one of the most important things that you're going to do is you're going to be one of 9 that actually hire someone to manage the state's, pensions, and I think that is a critical step. We also have great investment committees that are going to also help make investments. So the key thing is to have good people on those committees. I want to make sure that we do that as well. We have a very aggressive strategy to get 8% a year. That's aggressive. Obviously, years like the last couple of years, you can make that, but in down years, it's very challenging. So, I want to echo what Tom and Deb said as well. I want to find ways of reducing fees. I don't think we should be paying hedge funds 2 and 20, 2%, management fee, 20% of profit. So I think we need to find ways of reducing fees and trying to make sure we can save as much money as possible. But the one thing I want to do differently, if you look at Wisconsin, if you look at California, they invest more in their state than we do. Right now, if you look at $100, we're only investing 30 cents of that in Massachusetts. I want to invest more in Massachusetts. I want to make sure that we are investing here in our state, in Springfield and the rest of and I believe we can still get good returns and still have good results. But we need more investment here in our state, and we have a $60+ billion pension that I believe we can have more investment in our Commonwealth. And when I say the whole Commonwealth, I'm just not talking inside of 128. I'm talking about Springfield and surrounding communities as well, because I believe there's a lot of great brain power throughout the whole state, and we should put that to work. And once again, if you look at California, that has great returns. You look at Wisconsin, also has great returns. They invest up to 10% of their pension funds directly in their state. Here in Massachusetts, we should do better. We need to do better.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much. Very, very important topic, especially for the state employees whose future that depends on. So thank you very much for the articulate answers. We appreciate it. We are going to take a short break here, and we'll be back in a moment.